Welcome today, everyone. My name is Caitlin Reed, and I'm the Senior Communications Officer with the Canadian Partnership for Women and Children's Health, and I also support the Mobilization Secretariat on Communications. I want to welcome you all today for the first webinar on the Women Deliver 2019 Mobilization Canada. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few tech items with you all. As you can see, you can go on mute. If I stop the screen share, on the bottom left-hand corner, there's mute. So if you're not talking, please go on mute so that it doesn't distract the speakers. You can also start and stop video right beside the mute button on the bottom right-hand of your screen. And in the top right-hand corner, there's different view options. So you can have gallery view where you see all of the speakers, or sorry, all of the participants. And then there's speaker view where you just see this person that's speaking. I recommend during the presentation to be on speaker view so that you see the speaker. And then during the question and answer period, we can all go on. Gallery view so we can see each other. So just a reminder to please go on mute when you join us. And also one last tech item is the chat feature. So if you have any questions, especially during the presentation, please put them in the chat. And then during question and answer, you can put your questions there as well. And then we'll go through them one by one in the chat feature. It's on the bottom, sort of in the middle of the bottom of the screen, and then it'll show up on your right-hand side. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature. You can message me, Caitlin Reed, privately if you have any tech questions, or you can email us as well. So why don't we get started? All right, so hopefully everyone can see the presentation now. Just let me know if not. Okay, so first I'll go through the agenda. So first we just did the welcome, and first we'll do the overview of the mobilization, and then we'll get into the action areas. And then we'll go over key moments and upcoming events for the mobilization, then into communications, and then into the question and answer period. So I will pass it off to our first speaker, which is Julie Savard-Shaw. Julie?
Thanks, Caitlin. Welcome, everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Julie. I'm the Director of Partnership for the Women Deliver Mobilization Canada. Caitlin and I are both the only two staff at the Secretariat at the moment. So we appreciate your patience with us in developing the mobilization and the material and everything. We will try and be as brief as possible today. I want to leave as much time for questions as possible. So I'm just going to run through these, and then we'll have a bunch of time to discuss. So essentially, as most of you know, the Women Deliver Conference is taking place June 3rd to 6th, 2019 in Vancouver. It's the world's largest conference on gender equality and the health, rights, and well-being of women and girls. So it is really an important and timely opportunity. And the fact that Canada is hosting it is even more of an opportunity for us as stakeholders based in Canada. While the conference is, as I just mentioned, really important and timely, it is a global conference. So the participation at Women Deliver is global in scope. So what we've decided to do, and when I say we, it's a group of various organizations and private sector and academic institutions, partners across Canada, really decided that Canadians needed to come together to engage each other. So the Women Deliver Mobilization Canada was formed, and so our role is to engage Canadian citizens across sectors from coast to coast to coast to improve Canadian leadership on gender equality and generate increased investment. When I say investment, it's not necessarily just financial. It could be investment in time. It can be changes in policies. Whatever in your area of work investment means is what we're trying to accomplish. So as I kind of just previously mentioned, the Secretariat of the Mobilization is currently composed of myself and Caitlin, and we're hopefully going to be adding additional staff this fall. We report to the Canadian Mobilization Consortium, and that consortium is composed of members representing various sectors across Canada. So we really have a good representation of the various provinces as well as the different sectors. From an operational perspective, the Secretariat, so myself and I, are housed at CanWatch, which is why you see that our email addresses have the @canwatch.ca, but we are working on the Women Deliver Mobilization. So our role at the Secretariat is really to work in collaboration with all of you, as well as to ensure alignment with Women Deliver. So I work really closely with the Women Deliver team based in New York to make sure that our work here in Canada aligns with the work that they're doing, and that we're amplifying each other's communications messages, and that we're just generally in the loop as to what's happening on their side and vice versa. So for example, you know, we may talk a bit later about side events, or, you know, when Katya Iverson, the CEO, is in Ottawa, having opportunities to have her included in some event is a value add. Another one of our role is really to, I really see my role in terms of assisting to build synergies between the different sectors. So I'll just ask that everyone go on mute. Thank you. Okay. So I really see my role as one of assisting to create synergies between the various sectors. As I mentioned, we have really, I was really pleasantly surprised at the wide range of sectors that have joined the mobilization, from the financial sector to the academic sector to the tech sector. So really creating synergies between sectors and ensuring that everyone's working together rather than working in our own silos. And then finally, and Caitlin will speak more to this, our role, you know, Canada is really big, and Women Deliver at their last conference in Denmark, the coordination of a mobilization initiative was slightly easier given the size of the country. So we heavily rely on digital engagement, social media and traditional media to get our messages out there. So that's a really big part of our work as well. And Caitlin will be discussing that shortly. So finally, just in terms of the quick overview of the, you know, logistics of the mobilization, we are so happy to say that since launching the website on June 5th, more than 120 organizations have joined and signed on as mobilizers. So thank you to everyone, and please continue to encourage folks to join. I really think there's value in, well, there's power in numbers, and really being able to demonstrate that together as Canadians, we support you know, a movement on gender equality. And while we are all, you know, working on our own work and advancing our own goals, together we are stronger. So that's it's great to see. So moving on, and I know, sorry, this is kind of dry material, but I think it's important to just kind of explain how the mobilization is organized. We've just recently, the consortium has approved 3 action areas. So as some of you may know, Canada hosted the G7 this year. The Prime Minister had a Gender Equality Advisory Council, and there was a W7 feminist vision for the G7. So both groups released recommendations for the leaders of the G7. Obviously, given that it's a consensus-based organization, many of the recommendations were not taken up. So there was an analysis done of the G7 commitments, as well as the recommendations that were made, and their major gaps that remain. And the analysis revealed that essentially the major gaps were in the health sector, gender-based violence, as well as economic opportunity. So that's essentially what the mobilization will be focusing on. You know, I think the fact that Women Deliver is a conference that is global in scope, it's the largest conference on gender equality, and it's non-consensus based, really presents Canada, but other leaders. Women Deliver conference is known to attract a number of different heads of states. So, you know, if we have announcements from Canada, but as well announcements from other heads of states, it would be really remarkable. And I think it's really an opportunity for all of us to use the conference and just build in the lead up to that to advocate for and call for concrete and lasting change. So the three areas of focus will be, the first one will be gender responsive health systems and services. So this includes sexual and reproductive rights to ensure that women, adolescents, and children survive, thrive, and realize their rights to health, dignity, and equality. The second action area will be gender-based violence. So this includes, you know, everything from sexual harassment, school-related gender-based violence, harmful practices, child early and forced marriage, female genital mutilation, trafficking of women and girls, and other marginalized community. And the third area of action will be women's economic empowerment and equal opportunity. So this really relates to everything that enables women and gender diverse people to participate successfully in the economy, whether that is access to childcare, you know, care responsibilities in the home, equal pay, everything that is kind of under that broad umbrella around women's economic participation. But it could also be kind of retainment and empowerment, or of women in leadership position, or access to resources, you know, for women entrepreneurs. So it's quite a broad area. And so the idea is that each action area will be led by 1 to 3 mobilizers, and those leaders, if you will engage directly with other mobilizers that kind of associate their work with one of the 3 action areas. And together as a group, you will all identify the top 3 wins that you would like to see for that action area. So at the end of the, well, I don't want to, actually I shouldn't say at the end, but what would you like to see coming out of the mobilization, or what would you like to see coming out of Women Deliver for that action area? You know, the idea is that we're pushing beyond an advocacy agenda to one that is really asking for concrete actions and commitments. So I'll take, for example, the third action area around women's economic empowerment. So let's say everyone that, you know, the mobilizers that align with that work decide that together one of the wins that they would like to see is actually the private sector committing to having 50% of women represented on their boards. So that could be a commitment that, you know, you would like to see the private sector make. It may not necessarily be at Women Deliver, but in the lead up to Women Deliver, or, you know, in that year kind of around Women Deliver, looking at how the private sector could come to commit to that. Or another example could be for the first action area around health. mobilizers coming together under that action area could decide that a financial investment from the government in sexual and reproductive health and rights is the win that they would like to see. So what this allows is, by focusing on the win, everyone can kind of keep doing their own, and obviously you're all doing amazing work, so everyone keeps doing their own work and keeps pushing forward their campaign, but we're all working towards the same goal, and it's really a cross-sectoral initiative. So you may have, you know, in the third action area about women's economic empowerment, you may have an organization that works in developing countries, and you may have a large financial institution in Canada. They're all working together to achieve the wins that they will identify together. So in terms of next steps or organizational kind of how this will all work, the Secretariat and the Consortium have identified and will reach out to mobilizers that may be interested in leading certain action areas. If you would like to lead an action area, please contact us and let us know as soon as possible. And really what it means to lead is really more of a convening role rather than an agenda setting role. So the role of a leader of one of the actions will be to bring everyone together and kind of do that process of working with folks to identify what the top 3 wins for that action area will be, and communicate regularly with myself and Caitlin so that we can align messages and kind of all work together. So please connect with us if that is something that you're interested in. Once we have the leads for each action area, they will then we will then put a call out and have you all identify or sign up, if you will, for a specific kind of group chat or email chain, or we haven't yet decided how that will work, but so that everyone can connect per action area. And you can expect that to happen this September coming up. So that's actually a good segue for September coming up. As part of the mobilization, we have identified 3 key moments for the year leading up to Women Deliver. What we mean by key moments is that we ourselves, the Mobilization Secretariat, will be kind of focusing our attention on those moments and developing material to support those moments. So the first moment is actually coming up quite quickly, and that is Gender Equality Week. Many people actually haven't heard about this yet, unfortunately. But in June 2018, so just recently, Bill C-309 received royal assent. So the bill was a private member's bill that was put forward by a Liberal MP, Sven Spengerman. And essentially what it does is it assigns the 4th week of September each year as Gender Equality Week. So starting this year and moving forward, the 4th week of September will be Gender Equality Week. So the goal of that bill and the goal of that week is to call on Canadians to organize events and initiatives to address the challenges faced by women and gender diverse individuals. So as part of the mobilization, we really see this as an opportunity to not only make folks aware that the mobilization exists, but also to just generally mark this week. Like I've done a preliminary research. It hasn't been in-depth, so if anyone has an in-depth research of this and I'm wrong, please share that. But I have not seen another country that has a Gender Equality Week. So it's really, from my preliminary research, a first in the world and certainly in Canada. And we really believe that we should be, shouting it from the rooftop and be proud and talk about all the great accomplishments that we've done. But it's also an opportunity to highlight the gaps that remain and the work that still needs to be done and kind of set the stage for the year leading up to the Women Deliver conference, and kind of, you know, start laying the groundworks for some of the announcements that we're hoping to see. So as part of Gender Equality Week, Caitlin, and she'll speak to that a bit later, will be developing a social media toolkit. So we would encourage everyone to share some of that, and encourage your followers to do the same. It'll be, you know, very high level and kind of address some of what I've just mentioned around kind of celebrating that week. And we will also be hosting an event in Ottawa. And so for those in Ottawa, we will send out invitations shortly, and we hope that everyone can make it. For those that are not in Ottawa, we would encourage you all to host events and to share that with us so that we can amplify that through our own social media channels, and perhaps assist you in getting a different audience and a larger audience to your event. The second moment is during International Development Week in February. So similarly, we'll be developing a social media toolkit. We'll have more details as we approach that week, and we'll share that with everyone. And then the third moment, and what is kind of really the key moment for the mobilization, is the We Deliver Action Month. So that will be launching this Sunday of Mother's Day in May 2019. And that will run until the beginning of the Women Deliver conference in June. And the idea is that, you know, we'll be kind of raising these issues and you know, being active on social media and talking to MPs and whatnot. But if all of us together during that month, we are all putting on events, we are all writing op-eds, we are all really raising awareness and encouraging public engagement on the themes that we have identified, there's just no way that the media and our politicians cannot pay attention to that. So as we approach, we'll be communicating with all of you, but we'll be releasing not just a social media toolkit, but an action toolkit recommending different types of events that you can do, providing you with all the, you know, details and just trying to help you along that path. Helping as well with connections to traditional media outlets and encouraging everyone to you know, write op-eds, do TV interviews, radio interviews, but really trying to get the communications piece out there so that when the conference rolls around, Canadians everywhere and our government at all levels, you know, provincial, municipal, federal, are aware that Canadians are paying attention to this and that they expect to see concrete announcements at Women Deliver. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, Julie. We just had a question, and I thought it was a good time to raise it. It was about the difference between mobilization events and side events.
That is a good question. So, and I did mention it earlier. So, essentially, and some of you may have received, if you're signed on to receive updates from Women Deliver, the organization. A side event, a side event with Women Deliver, so an official side event, is one that will be hosted at the convention center, but will only be accessible to delegates of the conference. So right now, Women Deliver has a call out for applications. People can submit their ideas to host side events, and it's a great opportunity to have something like really kind of in the center of where all the action of Women Deliver is happening, But I think it's really important to note that only delegates of the conference can attend those side events. So a mobilization side event, on the other hand, is one that would be hosted kind of on the sidelines in and around Vancouver, but would be open to anyone, obviously, or however your organization chooses to organize it. But it wouldn't necessarily be, you know, an official Women Deliver event. I'm still communicating with the Women Deliver team to make sure that even if mobilization events are not labeled side events, that the mobilization events still appear on the program and the main website of the conference, and it's looking quite positive. So my expectation, and for those who have been to UNGA may know, a lot of people go to New York for UNGA without necessarily actually attending the General Assembly, but they go there to participate in all the side events that are happening. So my expectation is that there may be some of that in Vancouver as well, where folks from across Canada may be coming. They maybe can't afford to attend the conference, or choose to simply, you know, come to attend the different mobilization events that are happening. Certainly there's going to be high level representation at the conference. So it's, even if your event is not happening in the conference center, I do believe that political staff or political representative decision makers, you know, based on the audience of your event, would make the 15-minute drive to wherever you're hosting your event, and then you're able to have more of a Canadian audience rather than a global audience, or an audience that is simply base of delegates. Yeah. So Caitlin, why don't you, before we jump to the other questions, do you want to just go over the communications piece?
Certainly. Sorry, I was just getting off mute. So as Julie had already alluded to, the communications part is a really important and huge part of this campaign. You know, as she was talking about, the goal of the mobilization is to connect people from coast to coast to coast, and really drive concrete and lasting change on gender equality across Canada. So with such a large country and such large goals as these, digital engagement is a huge priority for the mobilization. And the most important part of that is really all of us joining together and engaging online and being very active online to promote the mobilization, as well as all of the great work that you all do on gender equality. And it's also important to note that the Women Deliver Conference really offers us an amazing opportunity as well. There's a lot of attention globally, but also domestically, as well as there's a lot of attention for key stakeholders and for government officials, as well as the media. So it's a great way to take advantage of this opportunity and push forward the goals of the mobilization, as well as the work that we're already doing. So, you know, we can use this campaign as a great way to engage the public, and a great way to engage the media, great way to engage high-level influencers, and also decision makers. So it's important to keep all of that in mind and make sure that we're all doing what we can to effectively take advantage of the opportunity that the Women Deliver Conference and the mobilization in general presents us. We have a Facebook and Twitter accounts. I hope that you've all been on, and if not, if you just search for the mobilization on both of those channels, you should easily be able to find us. Our hashtag is WeDeliver2019 or Délivrant 2019 in French. So, you know, just use those hashtags and tag us in all of your posts on social media, and we'll be launching an Instagram channel in the fall as well. And so really these channels are important for us to engage with our mobilizers, but also with different audiences. So we want to be very strategic and plan coordinated action. So we want to use channels like Twitter to engage with different stakeholders and decision makers in the media. We can use Facebook and Instagram to really engage with the public and get them interested in talking about just gender equality in general and the mobilization. We do have primarily a focus on domestic gender equality issues, but of course we're focused on international as well. So both are very welcome, but just keep in mind that this is of course a domestic mobilization. And as Julie had already mentioned, we are going to have mini campaigns almost. There are many areas of focus to coincide with key moments, and then have sustained engagement in between the moments. So we discussed Gender Equality Week and the toolkit and the events that are being planned. And similar actions will take place for International Development Week. And then the month of action leading up to the conference will be the key moment where, you know, all of the hard work that we've done, we've been putting in to engage for the year leading up with the media, with the public, with influencers, and with other stakeholders, really will be to drive it home during that month of action, would be the key moment. And we'll give more specifics, of course, but just want to let you all know. And to make sure to connect with us ahead of time so that we can plan effectively. So just the question on hashtags. So the hashtag WD 2019 is for the We Deliver conference. So if you're tweeting about the conference, that's the hashtag to use, WD 2019. And I believe hashtag the power of is also their hashtag. That's the Women Deliver hashtags. And if you're talking about the mobilization or your domestic gender equality work, your international gender equality work, and highlighting how we're really moving the dial on gender equality, it's good to use hashtag We Deliver 2019 or the hashtag Délivrons 2019 for French. So just, you know, you can use both hashtags, of course, but when talking about the mobilization, it's the We Deliver 2019 hashtag. And I also want to highlight that this is going to be a two-way street. This isn't just about promoting the mobilization and our goals. It's also about promoting the work that you're all doing already and the wonderful impacts that you're making, as well as using it to drive forward some of those advocacy pieces. Now, we're not going to be advocating directly, but as I said, it's a great time to take advantage to advance your own goals. And so there's different ways that we can promote your work and your content. One is, of course, on our social media channels. If you connect with me directly or just with the secretariat at We Deliver 2019 at canwatch.ca, then, you know, we can put your content on social media. We also have a campaign spotlight in our newsletter, which goes out. We have very high open rates. So if you want to increase knowledge of your campaigns within the mobilization, that's a great way to do so. And also we are reaching out to media. So if you want to connect with us on reaching out to media or different stakeholders, public engagement opportunities, all of that type of stuff, it's really good to connect with us directly. And if you haven't done so already, please send in your communications and or public engagement colleagues' contact information. We have a mailing list where I'll be mailing out, you know, the toolkits and different communications updates. And that's really important that all goes to the right people. So just if you haven't done so already, please send us in that contact information, and then we can connect. We can connect directly with the right people and make sure that we're getting the audience that we need. And also, before, as we said, we'll be sending out a Gender Equality Week toolkit as well as others throughout the year. But we already have our general mobilization toolkit on our website. The URL is on the bottom right hand of the screen. So feel free to check that out. And then you know, contact me if you have any questions or if you have anything to add. We're very open to having it be that two-way street. So again, we have these large goals to really move the dial on gender equality across Canada, but we also want to support your work. So we look forward to working with all of you on communications. And if you have any further questions, we can address them in the question and answer period. I will turn it back over to Julie.
Thanks, Caitlin, and thanks, everyone. I just wanted to add, and this is not necessarily in communications or in the action areas, but kind of some of the opportunities that may be beneficial for mobilizers. You know, as you may have noticed on the website, joining as a mobilizer is quite a loose term. You know, it's free. We're not asking for any concrete actions. Again, it's about power in numbers. So the question kind of is, and someone asked, like, what's the objective of the mobilization? There is value in joining the mobilization. So I'm currently in Vancouver because the mobilization actually just hosted a roundtable with the Minister of International Development. The office reached out asking the Secretariat to organize a roundtable with BC-based mobilizers to learn more about what they're doing and how she can help achieve some of the goals that the mobilizers are trying to achieve. And similarly, I was talking about an event for Gender Equality Week. While not confirmed, it's our hope that our event will be with Minister Monsef. So those are the kinds of opportunities that I'm sure will keep arising as the year moves along. And I think what actually does set us apart is the fact that, again, we are cross-sectoral. And so when we, you know, had the roundtable with the Minister of International Development, it wasn't just folks that work in the development field, but we had folks, you know, that work in sports, that work in the academic sector, that work in health. But when we all come together and talk about the importance of moving the dial on gender equality and of investing and, you know, really kind of finally kind of using this opportunity that this Women Deliver conference presents and make it concrete change, that's when it's so much stronger. And I think that's what's really appealing right now, at least to the federal government. I saw a question, and I don't want to jump into Q&A right now, but around kind of provincial. Yes, it is something that we are working on. As a reminder, Caitlin and I are two people leading the Secretariat for the Mobilization. So would be happy to form a group to talk about government relations, though, if there is interest in, you know, having more engagement with the different provincial levels of government. I recognize that there are definitely certain provinces in which it would probably make sense to do that. Ontario, Alberta, with the upcoming election would probably make sense. So I'll take note of that and maybe send out a poll for members to sign up to have a discussion strictly around government relations if that's something that's of interest. But before we move to Q&A, I just want to thank everyone, because Caitlin will wrap up the webinar at the end. And our doors are always open, so email us if you have any questions. But again, thank you. It's been so great to see how many people have signed up and the enthusiasm of our mobilizers. So thank you. And Caitlin, why don't we jump into Q&A?
Sorry, just unmuting. Thanks so much, Julie. So let me just go through. So the first question, I think we should, so we already did the Ontario-based mobilizers. So Jennifer Papal asked if you could speak a bit about the role of consortium members and how they were selected.
Yeah, so the consortium members are actually, they were, the consortium itself was kind of formed before the actual secretariat was developed. When Women Deliver first announced that they were going to host the conference in Vancouver, a group of organization kind of came together and started talking about how a Canada-wide movement could be coordinated. And from there, they kind of formed a group that remained. And that's kind of when I was brought on, and when Can Watch kind of took the lead in terms of hosting the secretariat. So it wasn't a rigorous process, though we did make sure that there was representation from different provinces, and we have Indigenous representation and youth representation as well.
Okay, great, thanks. And we also had a question about connecting. They asked, they have effective presenters in one of the 3 action areas. Do you know who we connect with? And I just want to clarify, so the action areas are the action areas of the mobilization, not necessarily the Women Deliver conference. So for presenters, you could certainly plan events or connect with us on planning events together and having your presenters speak at an event that would suit their skill set. So we'd be happy to connect. So you would connect directly with the Secretariat on that, as well as Julie said earlier, if you want to become one of the leaders or at least work in one of the 3 action areas, you connect directly with us. But if you're talking about presenting at the Women Deliver conference, that's completely separate. And I believe those are all decided as well outside of side events. The next question we have is from Charmaine, and she asked about, in the development of wins for the action areas, how can the mobilizers get involved?
Thanks, Charmaine. So I was trying to articulate it earlier. We haven't identified the exact process, whether that will be through email and kind of a poll and mobilizers assign each other, or whether we will circulate the email addresses of the leads for each action area, and then mobilizers, should they choose to work to develop the wins, can contact the leads. But that process will be outlined in our next webinar, hopefully in September. So thank you for your question. Please just be patient with us, but we'll have it all sorted come September. I did see another question that I just want to touch on around, will there be similar meetings with Ontario-based mobilizers? I'm assuming that was around the roundtable that was held in Vancouver. Certainly, I hope that there will be. In this case, the minister's office, asked for us to organize one. If the event for Gender Equality Week goes ahead with Minister Monsef, the idea would be that there would be an opportunity for mobilizers to attend in Ottawa, and certainly have moment to interact with the minister. So it wouldn't necessarily be a roundtable per se. However, it does allow for more mobilizers to attend. The roundtable, unfortunately, was limited in space, and even mobilizers in BC, not everyone, could participate. So, but I expect that as we move along during the year, we will get more and more requests to meet with mobilizers.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Do we have any more questions? Or if I missed anything, let me know. So yeah, feel free to just type it in the chat box if you have any further questions. One person wrote about the work that they are doing to raise awareness in May, and so we can reach out directly to you to talk about how that could be, or whether that could be included in the action month. So just so you know, I did see that, and I will follow up with you. Thanks. So we have a question about when the September webinar will be. It will likely be later in the month, but definitely before Gender Equality Week. We'll send out that confirmed date when we have it. And then we have another question, a great one, about how are we centering Indigenous women and girls in the mobilization?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So as I mentioned, we have an Indigenous representative on the consortium. We are also working really closely with the organizers of the Indigenous pre-conference for Women Deliver. So similar to like official side events, there are a number of Indigenous groups here in Vancouver that are organizing a pre-conference on women's health. So we have the Vancouver Coastal Health, as well as the First Nations health authorities, I believe. And so we're engaging through that. And then my goal is that we also apply and include in the Indigenous lens and recognition of Indigenous challenges within each action area. So certainly as mobilizers are developing their wins, I would encourage everyone to, have one that is centered around domestic Indigenous challenges and what we would like to see coming out of that. Can we talk about the pre-conference work? So the mobilization is actually not leading the pre-conference. But I'd be happy to, on our next call, get the lead organizer to come and talk about it if that's something of interest.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And next question from May is about what are next steps expected from the mobilizers?
Yeah, so in terms of next steps, there's a couple things. So one, as Caitlin mentioned, and I mentioned as well, our digital engagement is really important because Canada is so big, we can't travel to everywhere and meet with all of you and attend and organize events. So I would continue encouraging all of you to follow us on our social media, as well as encourage your own followers to follow us. And the reason I say this is that if we actually want to be cross-sectoral and helpful for each other, let's say CanWatch, which is a member-based development-focused organization, doesn't necessarily have as followers the same followers that Bank of Montreal has as followers. But if they both follow each other and we tweet something, then that content will kind of, Caitlin, help me here because I'm not a social media texter.
Oh, that's okay. So we can reach across all the different sectors on social media and have that broad range audience that we're looking for. So we don't want to just reach, the usual suspects like the development people. We do want to reach them, of course, but we want to have that truly broad support. So it is an actual pan-Canadian campaign. And so if we can ensure our mobilizers, it's wonderful. They are cross-sectoral. We have that reach already. We just need to make sure that we're all engaging. And if there's any blocks that you're aware of, for example, I know some organizations have very specific policies and procedures for their social media. So you can't always just grab a toolkit and put the content up right away in time or the way that it's formatted. So please reach out to me. And if you have those specific types of procedures in your organization, and we can figure out a way to make sure that you can be engaged.
So yeah, so that's, I would say the first step is the continued engagement on digital, on social media. The second step is around Gender Equality Week. So you have 3 or 4 weeks, I would encourage you all to go back to your own organization and start thinking about how you can amplify or celebrate that week, mark that week, whether that's, you know, organizing lunch for everyone in the organization or in the company, whether that is to have, you know, a specific, a few tweets that week on social media, or organizing an event. Just talk about how you can actually celebrate Gender Equality Week. And then thirdly, come September, as I mentioned, we'll have more details as to how you can get implicated in each action area. So it would be great if everyone could get involved to make sure that you know, your work is really represented in each action area, and that you get the wins that you're trying to get out of this mobilization.
Okay. So we had a comment about connecting with Manitoban mobilizers, and I can follow up directly with you on that question. So far, I think that is the end of the question. So if anyone else has anything, make sure to type it in, or else we'll wrap up the webinar a couple of minutes early. Okay, so I think that's the end of the questions. So thanks so much to everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about the mobilization today and what we hope to achieve with all of you, and how you can best use the mobilization to advance your own goals as well as reach the goals of the mobilization. And thanks so much to Julie, who's leading the Secretariat and who did the bulk of the work for this webinar as well. So big thanks to her. And you'll be hearing from us shortly. So I put the email address in the chat box, but I'll say it again. It's wedeliver2019@canwatch.ca. If you have any questions, or if you're not sure, you're on our mailing list, or you want to send in comms, contacts, anything like that, or any type of question, please just email us at any time, and we'll get back to you in due time. So thanks again for giving us your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks all.
Thank you.